Welcome back to the official Gal the Ghost Princess audiobook. I'm not going to bog the intro down with anything extra this time, but if you want to keep up to date with the story, or know how and where you can support me, everything you need is in the video description. Now, before we continue the story, here's a brief recap. After a beautiful dream that turned into a nightmare, Princess Gal finds herself as a spirit in the Star Nation. She discovers that the lock crown had come with her, and that it's stuck on her head. She meets two talking spirit foxes, who are brothers. Benny, who is clueless and way too carefree, but adorable, and Teddy, who has much respect for the Star Nation's government and prefers things to be done by the book. They meet a riddle-touting fairy named Cleo, and Gal learns of the guardians of the Star Nation, the tree-like Spriggans, who keep the dark spirits away. Gal experiences the wonder and otherworldliness of Tatanka City, but eventually the foxes tell her she needs to meet with the High Spirit Council. Queen Morgan cryogenically freezes Gal's body, hoping to retrieve her soul and bring her back, much to King Lawrence's dismay, who tells her she's going down a dark path. Then, she and Chancellor Winona meet with the Senate of New Machoka and learn that Senator Zuzeka's plans to rule the city for himself have deepened, as he plans to turn the people against her during the election for new senators and his possible re-election in 13 months. Morgan tells the council she will restore the connection between their world and the Star Nation and maintain the trust with her people. Chapter 9. Fellowship. Morgan went for a walk in the city, in spite of the insistence from her guards and Winona, saying she should return to the safety of the palace. With her crown gone, she was defenseless, at least to anyone who was unaware of the knives concealed in her leggings under her gown. "I have all of you. I will be safe," she had said. Horse-drawn carriages passed by with clacks and rattles, while Morgan's own carriage and guards on foot followed close behind, but far enough away not to hear her and Winona. She trusted her guards, but in such uncertain times, one could never be too careful. She studied the buildings here in the South District that were undamaged, but she was heading toward the East District, where the worst of the fighting had taken place. "That Zuzeka's getting bold," Winona said, lightly kicking a puddle on the sidewalk. The humid, musty air snaked up Morgan's nose when she took a breath and said, "It's not a recently acquired skill for him." She scowled as she imagined his irritating smirk. "He's been planning this, waiting for his opportunity to bring us down and win the people to his side." "But is it enough?" Winona said. "I mean, the royal family's had the trust of the people for centuries. For some senator to just come in and be their new hero because we failed once." A pile of loose bricks lay in the three-way intersection ahead, signaling the beginning of the city's ravaged areas. "It will not happen overnight," Morgan said. "He is not only waiting for the election so he can have another term in the Senate. He is waiting for the reality of the situation to set in for our people, for them to see how much we have failed them, and that there is no coming back from." They turned the corner, coming to a square where the fronts of buildings were crumbled. Debris was hauled away by citizens and military personnel alike, pushing wheelbarrows and horses pulling carts. Green medical tents were set up in the square, with the injured lying and groaning all around the tents. "It was worse last night, when you escaped to the palace with your family," Winona said. They walked through the square, and when Morgan noticed bloodstains in the street, Winona said, "The dead have since been taken to the morgues, the ones we've found so far, anyway." A man passed in front of them, pulling a horse by its reins as it huffed, hauling a cart. Morgan held her breath, peering into the cart. It only contained rubble. But as Winona had said, last night, she likely would have seen much worse. Just ahead of her, body bags were wheeled out of a tent by military personnel, people who must have succumbed to their wounds, only surviving to this morning. Winona swallowed. "I was hoping you wouldn't have to see that." "No, I need to be here." Morgan watched the bags be carefully lifted into a cart that had just backed into the square. "The children are safe, the prisoners are wherever they fled to, and now I can focus on being here for the people." She trailed off at the sight of a red flag, a few feet taller than herself, flapping in the breeze, its poles stuck in the rubble of a storefront, as if it had been placed there after the destruction. It portrayed a white symbol of interlocked hands in a circle. A gruff voice said, "They've been found all around where the attacks occurred, Your Highness." Morgan turned to the cart, where the soldier had spoken. He smacked the back of the cart, signaling the driver to move, then approached her, removing his green cap to wipe sweat from his sparse, thin hair. "What is that symbol?" she asked. "I don't know, ma'am. Apparently they just popped up overnight. Nobody saw who did it." "Okolakichia," Winona whispered thoughtfully. "Fellowship?" Morgan said. "Is that what it means?" "Your Highness?" the soldier said. "That flag represents the Oya word for fellowship," Winona said. "I know the word, but I have never seen that symbol," Morgan said. Winona's upper lip twitched with a suppressed rage, a response most curious to Morgan. "The Washi tried to extinguish that symbol when they invaded back then. They wanted to dehumanize us, to make our people look like nothing but savages to the rest of the world." The soldier mournfully held his cap to his chest. "You speak as if you were there," Morgan said. "In a way, I feel a connection to the past." Winona pulled the feathery prayer fan from her belt and stared at it, running her fingers through it. "The ancestors from my bloodline loved this flag, what it stood for. Thank Wakantanka, that much information has survived throughout the years." The soldier shook his head. "It don't make any sense. All the attackers were Washi. Why are they planting these flags? Do they even know what it is? Heck, I didn't even know till just now." Morgan squinted at the flag. "That is assuming the ones who planted them had anything to do with the attackers. If we discover anything, we'll send word your way, Your Highness," he said, then placed the cap on his head and stepped away. "Excuse me." Morgan looked away from the flag, observing the destruction of the square. An old woman approached her with a dour, sagging face. Winona stepped ahead of Morgan and to the woman, asking, "Are you injured?" The woman passed Winona, trembling, and said, "What happened?" Winona placed a hand on her shoulder. "The Queen is busy at the moment." "No. This is why I am here," Morgan said, with a hand raised to the Chancellor, who removed her hand from the woman. "After centuries of protecting the crowns," the woman's voice wavered, "and the people of this land getting to see their loved ones, everything being just fine, what changed?" Morgan stared blankly. She had no idea what to say. She had been dreading this moment of confrontation, but now was the time to figure out how to comfort her people with words, her weakest asset. She had always left the speeches and ceremonies to her husband and the kids. The crowns, the ceremony, the only things within her control. She had to bridge that gap between herself and others, were now gone. Did you get complacent?" The elder shook her head and frowned. "No, of course not." She broke eye contact and looked to the ground. "Something out of your control happened, right?" She looked at Morgan. "Nobody could have predicted anyone could escape the prison, right?" Morgan wetted her parched lips. "We are still investigating what happened. I visited the prison last night after the attack, and we have yet to find any leads." But Morgan could hardly maintain eye contact. "But know this." She straightened her back, even taller than usual. "We will get the ceremony back, and you will see your loved ones again." The woman's eyes lit up, along with a youthful smile. Yes, of course. You'll fix everything, right?" She sounded as if she were trying to convince herself. Morgan nodded once, strongly. The woman bowed quickly. "Thank you so much. I lost my daughter last night to those criminals." Morgan's heart jolted. But because of the spirit crowns and the star roads." The woman looked to the cloudy, dreary sky. "I'll get to see her anyway, so it's fine." She smiled the most unconvincing of smiles. Morgan smiled thinly, probably looking even less convincing. "Yes, everything will be fine." Good. Because if I can't see my daughter again..." The woman's smile fell, and she pointed a firm, skeletal finger close to Morgan's face, then pulled it back and clenched it to a fist. "I'm as good as dead myself." She let out a tense breath, smiled again, then walked away, leaving Morgan to stare at the wet, blood-stained street. I know the feeling. Chapter 10. The Weight of Silence. Gal had been signing a huge, as she would put it, a gaggle of forms she never bothered to read, for what was probably only a few minutes, but felt like forever. A yellow, glowing weasel lady stared through Gal with an unreadable expression. Was she angry, bored, impatient? For all Gal knew, she could have been happy on the inside, but was the sort who didn't show it. Not that she was used to reading the emotions of talking animals. Whatever it was, she felt scrutinized by the weasel. Gal's leg tapped anxiously as she sat in the spirit wood chair, signing form after form. A weighted seatbelt kept her tethered to the chair, so she didn't have to put effort into keeping herself from floating away. Once she was done here, no more distractions. She needed to see her Tete, and then figure out how to get both of them back home, and resume the party. No, it was too late for a party now, after everything that had happened. She just wanted to see everyone again, even if there was no party. There was always next year. Her leg tapped faster, now thinking of the spirit crown stuck on her head. Was it the real thing, transported to the Star Nation with her? Or just a copy? Even when she did meet the high spirits, would they even be able to tell the difference? There were other, more unsettling things on Gal's mind, but she tried her best to shut them out, which was hard since she was sitting in a silent room and being stared at by a judgmental weasel. Gal slid a form to her, finally noticing a bare desk. She hoped this meant no more paperwork. Is, that all of them? She asked, the heavy bags of boredom under her eyes lightening at the prospect of finally getting to leave. The weasel's eyes scanned the form for a few slow, slogging seconds, then filed it in with the rest, and turned to stare at Gal. Gal raised her brows in anticipation. The weasel wiggled its nose, and said nothing as it blinked 3 times. Yes, the weasel finally said. Gal's eyes darted around, trying to find the meaning behind the yes. Yes as in I can go? The weasel blinked. Yes. Gal slowly unhooked the tether from around her waist and hovered over the chair. All right, she said, backing away slowly. I'm gonna go now. Is that all right? The weasel sniffled once. Yes. She turned to the file cabinets and shifted papers around. Gal groaned with relief and turned to the door. Wait, the weasel said. Gal stopped in front of the door and gritted her teeth with anger, liable to break the nearest object or throw the chair across the room. Don't forget your free concert coupons. Gal blinked fast with utter confusion as she turned back to the weasel, who held a small card out to her. Gal took the card, seeing that it was in fact a coupon for a jazz concert, then said, thanks. She grinned, then rushed to the door and closed it behind her, and took a breath. She faced the lobby where Teddy and Benny had been waiting, tethered to 2 of the many seats in the room. Gal had been in there with the weasel for so long that the amount of spirits in the lobby had quadrupled from before. Most were humans, crying, hugging one another, and looking just as lost as Gal had felt when she first arrived to this world. She passed them, trying her best not to bump into anyone, as the room was full, and most weren't watching where they were going. Teddy and Benny noticed her, untethered from their seats, and floated to her. Teddy stroked his beard. Well, now that all of that's sorted, we'd better take you to the high spirits. Gal looked around at the milling crowd. Are these... She couldn't find the words, or the courage to say them. Yeah, they're just now coming in after the attack, Teddy said, next to a frowning Benny. How long has it been? She asked. What time is it back home? It would be early morning time there now, wouldn't it? Benny said, looking to Teddy. Yeah, Teddy said. Spirits spend quite a while traveling through the star roads before finally ending up here. What about my Tete? Any word? Gal asked, staring at the door and hoping to see her grandmother rushing in. Teddy shook his head no. We asked around. Nobody here at the office knows where she is. She probably never came back to the city and is still looking for you in the entrance woods. He then chuckled longingly. That's what my granny would have done. But what about the dark spirits? Gal panicked. Don't worry about that, princess, Benny said, putting his paws to her shoulders and looking her in the eyes. Remember the Spriggans? It's been decades since anyone's been haunted by a dark spirit. Gal looked away at the blue wooden floor. Only decades? Benny smiled. Your Tete will be fine. He returned to Teddy's side. She'll turn up, Teddy said. All right, Gal nodded. Well, I guess in the meantime, let's go and see the high spirits. Teddy let out a relaxed breath. It's so nice when you two actually listen to me. Spirits traveled around a bustling street, entering shops above, below, and beside Gal. Some of the building entrances were high off the ground. The architects must have had a heyday when they realized they could build in a place where everyone can fly. The Star Nation was exactly like what her Tete had described, and yet so much more. Her imagination did not live up to the true wonder of this place. But now, with the rest of the human spirits returning, there was no jazz music filling the air, no wide smiles and jovial laughter. "Things are really starting to turn bleak," Benny said with a frown. "You don't have to come with me, Benny," Gal said. "If there's someone else you want to be with, someone who might be sad about coming back early, then go be with them." "Oh, that's all right, Princess. I want to spend the day with you and make sure you get settled in. Besides, it's kind of my job. Today, I need to look after Gal the Ghost Princess." "Ghost Princess?" She giggled. Benny laughed with her. "But isn't that what you are?" "Well, sure. I don't want to stay like this, though." She looked at her glowing clothes and arms. "I got a little sister to look after, and I miss my daddy. And my mama, she must be worried sick." Bringing Gal out of encumbering thoughts, they turned a corner to see an enormous mausoleum floating high, overlooking a stony plaza. It cast a massive shadow directly underneath itself, over a darkened courtyard. She could hardly form a word at the sight. "Is this?" "Yep," Benny said. "This is Wakantanka Tipila, the Temple of the Great Spirit. It's huge," she said. "Want to check it out?" Benny asked. "That was, the whole point, Ben." Teddy's brows pressed together. "Come on!" Benny twirled in the air. Gal trotted high over the plaza, like she was climbing invisible stairs. They passed over the short steps and came upon a grand entrance, an ornate slab door, with symbols resembling the squares and triangles from the spirit crowns. Teddy flew to the door and held his paws out at Gal and Benny. "What's the matter?" she asked. "Mind your manners in here, you two. Benny, you know better. This isn't like the restaurant where it's okay to act like a goofball." Benny's ears drooped. "Yes, bro." He seemed to have realized something. Teddy pushed the towering slab door slowly but effortlessly, as if it weighed nothing. Dark pillars filled the dim expanse within, surrounded by a thick blue smoke, obscuring the view in all directions ahead, up, and down, an infinite abyss. "It's so..." Gal was speechless, the reticence of this place making her voice loud in her head. "Just follow me," Teddy said. "Don't be rowdy." People in hooded robes roamed the ghastly void. The air clogged her lungs with dust, like in an old attic, just as her grandmother had described. Being in the Star Nation didn't mean she was invincible. Her spirit lungs, heart, stomach, brain, and every cell in her body were just as susceptible to pain, damage, and aging as their living world counterparts. Although she had learned earlier that apparently spirits can eat upside down and not experience indigestion. And all of that was why she couldn't just wait around for the rest of her family to come here. What if she died here, passed to the Land of Peace, and never saw them again? Nobody really knew how the Land of Peace worked, or if it even existed at all. That beautiful place made of light she had dreamed of just before arriving here could have been just that, a dream. Besides, she couldn't bear the thought of not getting to watch Jan grow up. The blue miasma backed away as they traveled further, and still there seemed to be no end to it, only large rooms that filled some of the spaces between the pillars. Something about this temple, called the White Void and the monster from the Land of Peace, to Gal's mind. "Hey guys!" A teenage boy's voice passed through the fog, high and fluctuating through the motions of puberty, quite out of place, but reassuring. "Hey, Abram," Teddy said. Abram was around Euphemius's height, a couple feet taller than Gal, and probably also 16 years old, like her brother was. "What are you two doing back so soon?" His voice cracked. Teddy came close to Abram. "There's a certain, matter we need to discuss with the high spirits. Privately." "Wow, that important, huh?" Abram raised his thin, brown brows. "Potentially," Teddy said. "Okay, tell you what, I'll see if my mentor can get them together." He looked down at Gal. "And hello to you, Princess Gal?" His friendly smile turned slack-jawed, the racing of thoughts in his mind showing in his eyes. Yeah." She grinned as she scratched the back of her head. "Oh my gosh." Abram bowed. Forgive my ignorance, Your Highness." "Oh, you're alright, dude." She held her hand out for a handshake. Just treat me like anybody else. He raised his head and tilted his brows. He shook her hand, looking confused at first, but then he smiled. Pleasure to meet you, Your Highness. I'm Abram. I'm a junior spirit guide. I've only been dead for about a year. She wondered how he could say that so casually. Oh, so you lived in the city? She asked. Of course. Only people born in Machoka can come here, you know. Gal nodded. Oh yeah, right. Gosh, I'm all out of sorts lately. She awkwardly laughed away the encroaching, uncomfortable thoughts of being dead, then cleared her throat. So, you go to spirit guide school? Yep. I totally recommend enrolling, if you haven't already. It's probably the most fulfilling thing anyone can do here. She'll, think about it, Teddy said. It's a bit soon for that. Abram pursed his lips, looking like he felt stupid. Oh, right. Sorry. You just got here and there's a lot you need to adjust to. He paused for a moment, thinking deeply about something. But hey, if you ever need help figuring stuff out, just come and find me at the school on weekdays. Gal smiled along. Okay. Abram shifted his jaw with curiosity. Alright, I gotta know. What's so important that you guys need to see the high spirits? Or am I not supposed to know? Gal looked at Teddy. He glanced around, then nodded. You can show him. Just a peek, though. She parted her hair around the crown. Its turquoise glow reflected in Abram's brown, enraptured eyes. Benny gasped. Is that a spirit? He tried to say, but the others shushed him. He bit into his tail gently, with an anxious grin. Abram looked around. You'd better keep hiding that thing, Princess, until you see the high spirits. Teddy was saying that too, Gal said. How come? Teddy came close to Gal and lowered his voice. Let's just say the, Star Nation isn't the perfect place Benny makes it out to be. Benny leaned in and whispered. What are we whispering about? Tete did mention that, Gal murmured. Just because someone hadn't done enough wrong in the living world to become a dark spirit, that didn't mean all light spirits had good intentions. As much as she didn't want to admit it, this place was no utopia, especially not after the disruption of the ceremony. Abram began to hover away. I'm gonna go find my mentor. You guys can go ahead and wait in the council room. Thanks, Teddy said. So, what are these high spirits like anyway? Gal asked, as they floated toward the expanding mist, trying to ignore its imposing nature. Honestly, Benny said, they're more of a mystery to me than even the Spriggans. They give me the heebie-jeebies, you know? Don't worry about what he says, Princess, Teddy said. They just don't show themselves much, except on special occasions. They come across quite cold, but they mean well. Your grandmother's actually friends with one of them, you know? Oh yeah, Gal said, remembering hearing stories of Eden Arhona, an old friend of Mapi's, who was now on the High Spirit Council. They passed by a huge black door with two armored, serious-looking men posted near it with pistols holstered to their belts and holding sharp spears. Whoa, what's in there? She asked. Teddy urged her along. That's where Wakantanka itself resides, he said quietly, reverently. Gal peered back over her shoulder at the dark door. The Great Spirit. Chapter 11. High Spirits. The council room was bleak. A tall wall with 7 imposing seats on top encircled the small area Gal and the foxes hovered in, above which were long, stained-glass windows that cast a muted green light into the room. Every little grunt and groan from Benny echoed as he struggled to use his back leg to pick a piece of food out of his teeth. Benny! Teddy whispered through his teeth. A loud creak filled the room. Above the wall, 7 spirits descended from an open door, finding their seats. All were human, dressed in ornate robes. Some were dark-skinned Oya, others Washi pale, and the rest were of other racial descent from all over the living world. The patterns on their clothes looked like the ones seen on the spirit crowns, squares, diamonds, triangles, and lock and key shapes. Voice your reason for summoning us, a female high spirit said. We are told this is very important. And why is Princess Gal here? She should be with her grandmother. Teddy floated ahead a bit and bowed. Lady Ahona? He pronounced the J in her name as an H. High Council, there is something troubling about the princess's arrival to the Star Nation. He put a paw on Gal's shoulder. Show him. Gal separated her hair around the crown. The high spirits leaned forward, and their eyes went wide. Is this some kind of joke, Yoki? One of the male high spirits said. I wouldn't dream of it, High Spirit. Teddy took a breath, then looked at Gal. Go ahead. Try to take it off. Gal tugged at it, but it wouldn't budge. As you can see, we can't even so much as remove it from her head, Teddy said. Lady Arjona floated away from her seat and descended to Gal. Even through the turquoise glow, Gal could see her skin was a light tan, and she had many wrinkles between her brows and around her unsmiling smile lines. Her cheeks were slightly sunken, to an unhealthy-looking degree, but she carried herself proudly and firmly. She studied the crown. There must be some significance to the crown coming here with you. So, is it the real thing? Teddy asked. The royal family could not find the lock crown after the princess's spirit passed into the Star Roads, and the thief who took the key crown appeared to only take the one. Still, there is only one way to find out. Princess, do you know how to use it? The crown? Gal said. No, not really. Not on purpose. But right before I got sent here, I hurt someone with it real bad. You killed him. Arjona's brown eyes were piercing. We saw everything. Gal said nothing. Try it again, Arjona said. What? Do what you did to that sorcerer. She pointed to the wall. To that wall. Are you sure? A little damage to a wall is nothing in the pursuit of this knowledge. She stepped aside and left a clear shot at the wall for Gal. Go on, then. Gal gulped and focused on the crown as she shut her eyes. She could see through the veil of her eyelids that it was glowing on her head, but no matter how much she focused on it, nothing came out. Peering into the darkness, her thoughts fell into the places she had been trying to ignore ever since she arrived to the Star Nation. The crown rumbled as she saw the warty, grinning face of the evil man who almost killed Jan. He looked at Gal, laughing. His disgusting mouth of sparse, black teeth and yellow saliva made bile build up in her throat. She opened her eyes and tried to conjure a blast of light at the wall, but still nothing came out. She stopped to catch her breath. I'm sorry, I can't do it, she said, bending over her knees. She cleared her throat. Let me try again. No need, Arjona floated in front of Gal, halting her with her palm. We've seen more than enough to know this is the real crown. That glow, that sheer power, are unmistakable. Benny and Teddy set their paws on Gal's back. Are you okay? Benny asked. She nodded. So it is the real thing, Teddy murmured, his eyes a sparkle. Has anyone ever, died with one of the crowns before? Gal asked. No. Arjona cupped her hands together. It reminded Gal of the fancier royals from the countries across the ocean, and of her mother. Not in all of history, since the crowns were created by your ancestors, has anyone died while wearing one. Okay, so maybe it's no big deal, and this was just bound to happen, Gal said. It'd be pretty stupid if I died all because of some old prophecy, or destiny, or fate, or some such nonsense. Arjona's brows raised slowly. Don't count out the possibility quite yet. There is one. The doors burst open. We're Choppy! A desperate voice cried. Gal turned around. Tete! She flew to her grandmother. Ma pie, Arjona said, as if expecting her. Gal came to her grandmother's side and hugged, feeling her arm wrap around her. With renewed vigor, she looked to Arjona and said, So, how about getting us back to the living world to see our family? Ma pie's grasp loosened. The high spirits and foxes looked worried. Gal stepped away from her grandmother and huffed with an annoyed tone. Okay, why do people keep acting weird when I say that? Gal, Ma pie knelt down. There is no way for a spirit to return to the living world, except for once a year in October. You know that. Her eyes went to the lock crown. Is that? She looked to Arjona behind Gal, who must have nodded or something because Ma pie said, And that's only if we figure out how to get the crown back. But if we can get the crown back, then we can get me back, right? Gal's voice shook. I only just got here, and I'm still so young, I have my whole life ahead of me. That's not how it works, my love, Ma pie said, reaching for Gal's shoulder, but she backed away. Ma pie is right, Arjona said. The best we can hope for is to return the lock crown to the living world, so you and everyone else can visit once a year, as it has been for the last 3 centuries. Maybe if Gal didn't accept it, reality wouldn't either. She blew a dismissive raspberry through her lips. Pfft, I mean, with that attitude... Do you think I haven't tried? Ma pie snapped. The room echoed with her voice, then went silent. Ma pie wetted her lips. I'm sorry. That was... She sighed. It's hard for me too, Gal. I wish I could see you and everyone else more often. It's gotten so lonely ever since your grandfather passed to the land of peace. But I eventually had to come to terms with the truth and find happiness where I can here. Gal wrinkled her nose tight. Nothing, and I mean nothing, can replace the joy that I get from being with my family. She clenched her fists. I need to find a way back, and that's that. I don't care what it takes, and I will never give up. Mapi's lips pulled inwards and shivered. As I was saying, there is perhaps one way to return the crown, Arjona said, and it involves an old prophecy. Gal swallowed, then turned around fast. Well, let's hear it. Arjona raised her brows with a serious face, as if to show her surprise for Gal's lack of respect. Temper your expectations. This plan would require us to travel to the spirit wastes, the dark side of the Star Nation. Chapter 12. Nightmare. Garton strangled the life out of a new Machokian royal guard, watching the man reach fruitlessly at the vines squeezing around his neck until his face went pale and his arms limped. Through his unholy connection with the vines, Garton felt every crack and break in the man's neck, before he smiled and dropped him to the ground. The vines retreated beneath the brick street. There he is! Someone shouted from an alley. Stop! You're under arrest for the murder of Queen Mapi! A countless number of guards charged him, coming from all the surrounding alleys. Too many to fight off all at once. Live to kill another day, he thought. Come on, Fed, let's book it. He called out for his brother, but he couldn't find him. Fed? The guards closed in. Garton ran to the next street, pushing past civilians and jumping over stalls and carts. A faint sepia light shimmered around the corner ahead, drawing him in with a strange, dreamlike allure. He rushed into the gloomy alley, which he now realized was a dimly glowing fog. The brick walls of the alley became narrower the further he passed through. He turned around to see the direction he had come from was now blocked by a wall. What the? He followed an impossibly smooth curve of brick until it straightened out again, leading to a small plaza with a short, thin tree at the center. The night sky was replaced by a low, misty ceiling. Old men and women in rags walked around aimlessly or sat on the ground and benches, muttering nonsense to themselves, as if heavily drugged. Garton glanced around at the old bags, tisking to himself, wishing they were sober. Drug addicts were no fun to beat up or kill, because there was practically nothing left of them to break. Before he realized it, he'd made another turn into an open doorway and stepped into a grimy office lobby. In here, the misty ceiling was so low, he could touch it if he reached up. The room smelled like moist carpet, and Garton wiggled his nose, trying to get the rancid smell out before pinching it with his fingers. There were elders in here, too, but something was different about them. They twitched at every little dust particle in the air, and gasped at every movement he made. They were practically skin and bone, on the verge of death, muttering nonsense as the others had, but some of them were staring right at him. A primal fear arose within Garton. He was beginning to realize he had made a mistake by coming here. But then he found himself walking up a short, brittle staircase. Each board creaked under his heavy footsteps, leading him up to a tight hallway. He passed a woman holding a sign that said, "Leave now. They are wanting." Garton looked ahead and saw a misty plaza full of silhouettes of people, and something huge in the distance, obscured in the thick gloom. That area filled Garton with a gut-wrenching urge to leave. He turned around and walked fast, passing the elders, bumping into some of them. Their numbers had increased significantly from mere seconds before. One woman in particular had deep, sunken black eyes and the most hungry, malicious smile he had ever seen in his life. This place rendered him helpless, powerless, overwhelmed, like a defenseless little kid. He rushed down the creaky steps into the lobby area, where a short, decaying Oya woman, with visible bone in many places, grinned wide at him from a head that was hanging halfway off her neck. It was Queen Mapi, the woman he had killed that day. "Remember what happens to the ones who try to leave," she laughed, and the other old men and women laughed. Some of them shrieked in painful terror. The door leading out to the plaza shut in Garton's face. Garton was in total darkness now. He could feel nothing, see nothing. Everything was nothing. That nightmare he had just experienced was exactly that. None of it was real. He'd already killed Queen Mapi over 6 years ago. But then, what was going on in the present? He tried to recall his most recent memories, and then he remembered he and Fed lying around in their prison cell, until dark figures crept past the bars. "You fellas ain't guards," Garton had said, sitting up in his bed. Fed remained still, on the bunk above him. The figures doubled back. These fellas weren't even human. Their bodies were pitch black and caught no light. They were shaped like people, but that was about it, as far as human qualities went. "Who are you?" one of the smaller shadows said, its crackling voice like a snake from hell. Garton huffed. "Been in this dump so long I forgot." He made intense eye contact with the shadow, or at least where he thought its eyes were. "I'm just kidding," Garton laughed. "Name's Garton. And, what about you, Damon? Or whatever you are. Come to drag me down to hell?" "Who I am is irrelevant. All you need to know is that I am not your enemy." Garton scratched his warty nose, looking at the two larger shadow figures behind the smaller one. "Oh yeah? And, who am I to you, then?" "A distraction," it said. Garton cracked his neck to the side. "You trying to break out of this place or something? Although, I can't say I remember seeing any Grim Reapers locked up in here." "I intend to break you out." "Oh-ho-ho!" Garton stood from his bed and strolled toward the bars. "Now you got my attention. But, what exactly do you need on my part, eh?" "You catch on quick, inmate." "Come on, nothing's free in this world." The shadow looked like it inhaled, then said, "I need you to slaughter the royals." Garton burst out laughing. "On Star Ceremony Night? You're crazy. Fed, this guy's crazy." He looked up to Fed's bunk, where his huge brother faced the wall, breathing slowly and saying nothing. "The reason me and my brother are in this hellhole in the first place is because we did that exact thing on this exact night 6 years ago." The shadow turned to the others and said, "We found them." Loud cogs grinded together inside the walls of the cell as the metal bars split apart. Fed finally jumped down from the bed with a heavy thud. "What do you mean you found us?" Garton asked. "You're the ones who killed Queen Mapi, right?" it said. "Tell me, why did you do it?" "Why'd we kill the queen?" Garton smirked, looked back at his brother, then to the shadow again. "It's 'cause we can't stand people like that." "People like that," it said. "You mean the Oya?" Garton shook his head. Nah, I don't give a rat's ass about none of that. I'm talking about people who think they can't be hurt. Think they're invincible." He looked the shadow figures up and down. "Fellas like you." The main shadow let out an amused huff, then it and the others walked away. Garton exchanged a glance with Fed, and they stepped out to the long, 6-tiered prison block, the gallery. The other inmates peered out of their cells, glancing back and forth at Garton and the shadow figures. "What's making you think we're not just gonna kill you fellas right here?" Garton said. "Nothing," the main shadow said without stopping. "Feel free to take a shot at us, if you want." Garton chuckled. The shadow weightlessly stepped up to the grated stairs that usually squealed when someone walked on them. It passed all the way up to the highest catwalk, overlooking all 6 tiers of cells. "Which of you filthy freaks wants to get out of here and hurt the people that locked you up?" it shouted from the catwalk. The room erupted in animalistic roars. The shadow looked up at the window of the control room and raised its arm. A loud steam whistle pierced Garton's ears. Many of the cells began to open to the sound of grinding cogs. Dozens of violent criminals stepped out, looking like they were ready to hurt someone for little to no reason at all. "We are releasing the Washi prisoners only," its voice echoed. "Don't worry, Oya people. Your time will come. We just need to make sure our plan goes smoothly first." "What plan?" an inmate asked. "One you will bear witness to soon enough. All you must do is cause chaos in the city. Take revenge on those who imprisoned you here. But whatever you do, Do not harm any Oya people. If I see so much as a hair harmed on any of them, you will not live to see the rest of your freedom."
"Yeah? And why should we listen to you?"
someone said. Garton had a feeling something was about to happen, and sure enough, a mustached tank of a man leaped from the second tier all the way up to the catwalk. He landed 20 or so feet away from the shadow and cracked his knuckles. The two stared at each other as the prisoners yelled things like, "Tear him apart! We don't need him now! Kill him!" Garton and Fed stayed quiet and watched as the shadow swung one arm over its head, grasped the upheld arm with its other hand, and unleashed a rumbling black cloud that obscured the entire catwalk. The prisoners murmured to each other, waiting for the cloud to clear. The mustached man stood tall as the cloud faded, then fell lifelessly to the ground with a crash. The inmates gasped in horror, while Garton let out an amused whistle. "Now that I have proven my power," the shadow said, "I expect I have earned your loyalty, or at least your fear." "Even with that power, you think you can keep tabs on all of us?" someone said. Black, human-sized insects crawled out of the darkness of the cells and crept along the backs of the inmates. Garton, Fed, and the inmates attacked the monsters, but when their bodies fell apart, they came back together as if unharmed. Then the monsters retreated into the darkness. "I see everything," the shadow said. As he drifted in the nothingness, Garton in the present remembered how that display of power had made him feel. The attack on the mustached man was impressive, but the idea of an all-seeing demon watching his every move was what really shook him to his core. He couldn't remember the last time he had truly felt afraid. "Now, go out there and ruin that godforsaken ceremony," it had said, "and feel free to kill as many washi as you please." "What about the guards?" someone asked. "They are tied up around the prison. Do whatever you want with them." "What about the women and children?" Garton asked. "Can we kill them too?" "It makes no difference to me." If Garton had to limit his killings to the washi, he at least had felt some relief that women and children were free game. "Even the royals?" someone else asked. "Especially the royals," it had said. The rest of what occurred that night hit Garton's thoughts with an onslaught of pain. He finally remembered everything that had happened next. The people he slaughtered in the city, the little toddler princess he found, wanted to kill, but then her older sister ran after him and blasted him with that accursed crown, sending him crashing into a wall. He remembered brief glimpses of Fed trying to wake him up, to keep him from dying, but there was nothing Garton could do, as he had been dragged into the deep dark. He woke with a start, his throat burning like acid. All around him were wolf-like shadows, wrestling and gnawing at each other with predatory snouts full of black teeth. He was in what seemed to be a rocky cave, and there was a bright turquoise glowing object at the center of the blackness, shining a beam of light up to an opening miles high in the ceiling. Outside, there was a giant green cloud swirling over the cave. If this was another nightmare, it felt more real than the last one. A massive, hunched-over shadow, far larger than the rest, stood before him, facing away. What scared him was that he hadn't noticed it until just now, despite its size. "What is this?" Garton shivered, his voice sounding unfamiliar, deeper, more gravelly, staticky, and his skin crawled as if covered in spiders with needles for legs. He looked at his body to see nothing but blackness and hound-like limbs with long claws. The big shadow turned around, revealing its white, void-like eyes that crackled violently. Its snout was full of black, shapeless teeth, all wriggling as it slowly said,
"This is what you have been running from."
Each word carried with it a deep meaning and emphasis. This creature conveyed a sense of ancient, disturbed knowledge.
"And now you will be swallowed by it for eternity, or until you give yourself to the stone."
The creature looked to the source of the turquoise glow, a small stone. Garton was stricken by images of death, skulls, purple vines, and screams. everything he had done in his life. The visions finally ended when he fell to his knees over a black puddle and saw his own reflection. He didn't look like himself. He had become one of the shadow wolves. A purple fire shaped like a long tongue scorched in his mouth, making him scream. He felt the creature standing over him as he writhed and rolled on the ground.
This is what being a coward gets you, Garten.
The pain subsided, and Garten gazed up at the creature.
What happened to me?
He screamed.
What am I? Nothing you already were not when you were alive. Where's Fed?
Garten turned every which way. There was only the glow at the center, and darkness and violence.
Where's my brother?
The creature turned away and said,
Your brother is nothing but pain. Shut up! I want to see my brother! You are nothing but desire. How do I get out of here? There is no escaping yourself.
The shadow wolves surrounded Garten.
They long for fresh meat.
Their mouths drooled with flames.
Get away! I'll kill you! I'll kill every single one of you freaks! Do not worry. They will not feast on you for long. Soon, light spirits will come for the stone, and you too shall have your fill, as fleeting as it may be.
The shadows charged Garten. He swung his long claws at them, slashing their throats, but it only staggered them. They tackled him, tearing apart his shadow body and fighting one another over his taste.
Welcome home.
Chapter 13. Choice. Lady Arjona returned to her seat and began to tell of all it would take to return the Lot Crown to the living world. Deep within the spirit wastes, there can be found an ancient stone, the Bridge Stone, one of the Holy Trinity stones that created the Star Nation itself. I think I've heard of that, Gal said. My ancestors made the spirit crowns using the other two stones, but they lost that Bridge Stone along the way, right? More or less, Arjona said. Is it bad that the dark spirits have it? Gal asked. They cannot harness its power. Its surface melts their bodies. They watch the stone from afar, lusting after a power they cannot wield, destroying anyone that gets near the stone. Gal swallowed dryly. And we need to go there to send the crown back? Even Arjona looked nervous now, closing her eyes with a frown as she said, I am afraid that is the only way. The Great Spirit itself once told of a day when the star roads would close, and only a member of the royal family could restore the connection between the two worlds. Benny grabbed his tail, stroking it nervously. Gosh, I feel bad for the poor soul who's got to make that trip. Well, my granddaughter can't be the one it meant, Mapi nodded firmly. Don't be a fool, one of the other female high spirits said, from the top of the wall. Who else could it be? The circumstances line up too well. You wouldn't ask Gal to go. Mapi's shoulders weakened. Unless we can find a way to remove the crown from her head and send someone else, this is the only way, according to the Great Spirit, Arjona said. Gal's body went numb as she recalled Mapi's stories of dark spirits. Sharp teeth, sharper cries, an insatiable hunger, and the barren land they resided in that was covered in a gray mist that poisoned and crippled light spirits. Why not just send someone else and bring the Bridgestone back here to her? Mapi asked. Arjona shook her head. Removing the stone from the wastes would mean the return of the Eternal War. Its presence there is the only thing keeping the dark and light sides of the Star Nation apart. She took a breath. No. If we are to do this, the crown must go to the stone. Then, as much as it pains me to say, We won't do it. Moppy crossed her arms. Not if Gal has to go. Arjona sighed. Ultimately, it's up to the princess. We cannot force her to go, or to stay. Gal wetted her lips. Was this really the end? Would she never be alive again? The Star Nation was nice and all, but her father and mother weren't here, nor were her cousins, her friends, Yuffie, and Jan. Moppy scoffed. I can make her stay. Couldn't we just wait until she gets older at least? Teddy asked. If her going really is the only way? I don't want her to go ever, Benny whimpered. Everyone's distraught voices added to the onslaught of anxiety and noise in Gal's head. Her heart raced faster by the second. I will not risk my granddaughter's only chance at life in the Star Nation, Moppy said, and I will not put her at risk of suffering in that wasteland. The room erupted with opinions from the high spirits, the foxes, and Moppy, brainstorming alternatives, disputing theories, legends, rumors. Gal clamped her eyes shut, hoping to squeeze the noise out of her ears, but she knew there was only one way to answer this anxiety, this fear. She had known, ever since she saw that shadow approaching the prison. The only way things were going to get better was if she stopped being the happy-go-lucky gal she had always been, always wanted to be, no matter how old she got. Now, she realized, this was the time to face the music, to do the sorts of things she never wanted to do, throw her old self away, and be more like. Let's try it, she finally said. Teddy's ear twitched. Princess? Benny turned to her with worried, glimmering eyes. Let's try to take the crown off my head. If we can't make it work, then I'm going to the spirit wastes, she said nonchalantly, masking her fear. Arjona raised her brows as the other high spirits glanced at one another. Moppy smirked, as if Gal had made a joke. Don't even kid around about this, Gal. Gal shot a crass look at her. Oh, I'm serious. Moppy's face weakened, as if Gal had announced she was going to kill herself. Gal, you have no idea what you're saying right now. Gal couldn't bear to see her grandmother like this, so she looked past the high spirits at the green light coming through the window. No, Tete. For once, I know exactly what I need to do. Don't you do that. Don't go sounding like your mother on me. Gal snapped around to face her again. What's so wrong with being like my mama? Look at how she runs the country. I've tried not to look all these years, 'cause it was always so boring to me. But I know she's got her act together. I see that now. I really do. She knows when to face the music, and do what it takes to get things done. Moppy's eyes watered. Now you really don't know what you're saying. If you knew half of what your mother did outside the public eye...
It's better than doing nothing,
Gal said sharply. Moppy tried blinking away tears as she stepped toward Gal. You're not thinking straight, dear. She tried to grasp Gal's shoulder, but Gal hovered back. You are not my mama. You don't get to tell me what to do. Moppy's eyes opened wide with fury. I gave birth to your mother. I have seniority over the both of you. Guys, Benny stroked his tail fast.
And I am Princess Gal of New Machoka. It's my duty to make my people safe and happy. And if it's within my power to put things back to the way they were, then gosh darn it, I'm gonna do it.
Moppy shook her head. You're just a little girl. Please stop fighting, Benny whined, stroking his tail even faster.
Then stop me.
Gal squared her shoulders and marched toward Moppy.
If I'm such a helpless little thing, stop me.
Moppy blocked her. Then Gal slipped fast between her legs and, before Moppy turned, ran to and stood by the big door.
See?
Gal said, hands proud on her hips.
Ain't nothing can catch me.
Moppy's lips quivered, making a pang of guilt shoot through Gal.
I know you don't like it, but this...
Gal lifted her chin and narrowed her eyes at the green sky outside.
This is what I gotta do.
Moppy let out a dejected laugh. You're starting to look like her, too, she sighed. Fine, but I'm going with you.
No, you ain't,
Gal tried to say. Very well, then, Arjona said as she hovered to the center of the room. If we cannot find a way to remove the crown from the princess's head, then we will make preparations for an excursion to the spirit wastes.
I'm going too.
Benny let go of his tail and shot over to Gal's side.
Ben!
Teddy yelped, reaching for his brother.
Oh no, I couldn't ask you guys to do all that,
Gal said, Benny shrugged.
I said I wanted to spend time with my new friend. I'm sticking to that, no matter where she goes.
Gal was at a loss for words and couldn't help but smile. Teddy hovered with a hunch next to Benny. That means I need to go too, you know.
Oh, you're absolutely going with me, Benny said. It's gonna be scary out there.
Gal chuckled lightly, almost forgetting what they were getting themselves into. Hang on, Mapi said. Surely you're sending a big army with us. A large force would only draw more dark spirits, Arhona said.
A stealth mission.
Benny made embarrassingly sloppy martial arts poses. Yes, Arhona said. A stealth mission.
Okay, so who else is going?
Gal asked. We will send a small, capable group. Arhona glanced at Teddy and Benny with a tired frown. And the Yoki foxes, as it would seem. Some of our best soldiers will go, and you will need willing fairies to light the way once you reach the wastes, as well as Spriggans for their experience fighting the dark spirits.
Oh, let's bring Cleo and her fairy pals. Benny hopped. She's always raring for an adventure.
You may go to the forest whenever you wish and choose your companions, should we fail to remove the crown and this excursion indeed involve you, Princess, Arhona said. Well, Mapi shook her head wryly. That's that, then. She looked at the high spirits, but Gal could tell she was speaking to her. I hope you're happy. The council stood from their seats. Remember, Arhona said, this is the most we can do on this side. The royal family in the living world still has to recover the key crown, if we are to restore the connection.
Mama can do it, Gal said. She's gonna kick butt till everything's back to normal. And so am I.
Teddy laughed nervously, almost like he was about to cry.
I'm gonna die. Again.
Be warned, Princess, Arhona said. You will face many dangerous and evil things, but none as terrifying as the truth you refuse to accept. Don't worry about me, Gal said. I'm done ignoring scary things. Arhona glared coldly. That remains to be seen. Chapter 14. Eedie. Carl Fitzgerald plucked a rapid, somber tune on his spiritwood guitar, hovering above his desk, lying in the musty air of his bedroom. His eyes were shut as he drifted in the lifetime of fears, love, hatred, triumphs, and regrets in his head, trying to figure out the mystery that none of those experiences had solved. The mystery of himself. There was a clatter in the barracks outside his room. He set a palm over the strings to silence them. He heard his spirit soldiers rushing to the ground to stand at attention, likely for someone important. He hung the guitar on the wall and peeked out the blinds to see every soldier in the barracks facing the entrance, where Eden Arhona hovered in the doorway. Is General Fitzgerald here? She asked as he opened his door. Her glowing, proper posture was surrounded by the green light shining from outside. Carl leaned against the doorframe. I don't know. Who's asking? He smiled at her, and she blinked fast when he saw him. At ease, people, he said. The soldiers returned to do whatever it was they were doing, whether that was working out in the gym, playing cards, music, eating, chatting. It was an off day for everyone who wasn't on guard duty for the city, so no drills today. Eden bashfully tucked some of her hair behind her ear as she approached Carl and said, A word? He motioned her into his room. She hovered inside as he strapped himself to his desk chair with a seat tether. He offered her the seat across from him, but she refused. Well, Edie, to what do I owe the pleasure? He asked. Don't call me that, she said, looking down on him. It's degrading. He frowned. Didn't used to be. General Fitzgerald, you have more than proven your worth as a warrior and as a protector of this realm. He laughed lightly. No need to butter me up, Edie. Just say what you need. That's not what I'm... Her cheeks flushed bright red, even through her spirit glow. She sighed. I'll get right to the point. It has been a long time since you, or anyone, has journeyed to the wastes, but the time has come once again to face the evil there. A pang of foreboding doom hit Carl's heart. He stared at the collection of guitar picks on his desk. I had a feeling it'd be something like that. It's also been a long time since you've come to visit. He looked at her. You can come see me any time, you know. For anything, even just to talk. His eyes shifted to the wall as he imagined the temple and the High Council. I know those other spirits can't be great company. I am not concerned about my own well-being, she said, directing his attention back to her serious face. He laughed. Ha! Man, that sounds like something young me would have said. Back when I was all business and you were Eedie. We could get some of that back, if you only showed up once in a while. Memories of their days at the palace filled his head. My P misses you too. The old you. Eden blinked once, slowly, back to the topic at hand. She told him everything about the princess, the crown stuck on her head, and the plan to restore the connection. And I do not expect we can remove it from her head. The Great Spirit once said as much. Carl nodded. The Bridgestone. He narrowed his brows at her. And, you're just going to let that little princess go into the wastes for, what, a slim chance at getting things back to normal? She sighed. You were always like this. He chuckled. I'm afraid to ask what that's supposed to mean. It means it is possible to take back that which has been stolen from you. Carl pushed his tongue to the side of his mouth. Uh-huh. I know it is. He straightened his face and leaned over his desk at her. But what about the things you sacrifice along the way? He looked her up and down. We're living proof of that. And look at how our people have prospered, she said. Lived in peace for all these years. Carl reclined in his seat. Tomorrow morning, I will gather the citizens and tell them of the closing of the Star Roads, though no doubt that news has already spread, with all the human spirits returning. And I will assure them that we have a plan to restore the connection. But no details. Yes. Carl nodded. Right. Wouldn't want any undesirables interfering. He unbuckled his tether and rose from the chair. Anything else I need to know about? If not, I'll get myself ready. You are not going. What? I need you to protect the city. I will go in your stead. You're joking, right? Is the young, humorous Eedie I fell in love with way back when finally showing herself again? No, I'm serious. Carl scoffed. What, you think I'm gonna let you go there in my place? I'm flattered. It means you still have a soul. But hell no. Carl, please, listen to me. He floated above his desk. If I'm not the one leading this operation, it's not happening. Eden looked away as her upper lip twitched. You're a tough old cookie. I know that. But I've actually been to the wastes. Oh, that's what you were trying to do earlier. You were going to say something along the lines of, I know you've been there, but I need to go. She said nothing. Yeah, see, I always knew how to read your mind. It's weird I can do that, isn't it? Okay, fine. She squeezed her eyes shut. Just... He smiled, anticipating kind words such as, Be safe. I love you, Carl. Call me Eedie again. I actually miss that name. Do not let the princess, Mapi, or anyone come to harm. He almost rolled his eyes, disappointed she didn't say what he was hoping, but he didn't hate that response either. Carl raised his brows and smirked. Well, I saw a little bit of her there. What? The old you. I'd just seen the tiniest hint of that sweet Karen girl from the old days. Her cheeks flushed again. You are seeing things. I am no longer who you knew back then. Carl smiled. The more you change, the less you do. This mission really is that important to you, isn't it? It's for the people. It always is. Carl rubbed the back of his neck. Okay then. Just don't frighten my soldiers too much while I'm gone. She nodded once. Very well then. But on one condition. What? Carl floated past his desk and came close to her side. Have dinner with us when I get back. Me and my P. She blinked fast, avoiding eye contact. I will see if I have the time. He shrugged. It's a start.